I would do a live today. I thought I would do a live today. Let me see what's happening. Anything I can do to make it look good. Well, nothing. Nothing I can make it look good better than this. But anyway, today I want to talk about blind trust. Blind trust. What is blind trust? Now, blind trust, I think you know, everybody knows what blind trust is. You get in a relationship, you get in a situation with somebody, and you trust them completely blindly with no verification of how they'll behave accordingly, or if they are good people, bad people, what their intentions are in your life. Why am I speaking about blind trust? The reason I specifically want to talk about blind trust is because there are a lot of situations that children, women, men get themselves into in blind trust, and mostly this channel is about addiction, and with life improvement in general. So I was thinking, like, in my life, the people I've trusted blindly and how they have treated me has not always ended up well, has not always ended up well, but the good thing is I always had a way out. I always had a way out, and I always took that way out. I never waited for things to escalate. I never waited for people to use me, abuse me in any way. I always looked for a way out. So it's like blind trust. When you trust a person blindly, let's say most of the women who now in bad situations in relationships they trusted their husbands blindly. They trusted their husbands blindly. So let me give you an example of situation in a club. Girl goes to a club with a good friend, doesn't know this friend well. They meet up, pick up a few other friends, get to the club. They get to the club, her drink gets roofied up. She gets roofied up in London. True story. She gets roofied up in London, and she ends up in a hospital because she blindly trusted all these people to take care of her. She reaches the hospital, yeah, and she gets in shock. She gets in a coma, and she can't get out of it. She can't get out of it. So people, that's just a quick example of blind trust. Trusting people blindly is very, 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 very bad. Very, very bad. Like I have a colleague who was got from like all these guys who go to Brazil, Venezuela, and Thailand, and they get all these women and they like bring them up to abroad, or they bring them up here, and they marry them. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people try to fight uh, prostitution, but most of these women in prostitution are brought by their own husbands, their own uh, what they call them, playboys, not playboys, they call them I don't know, there's another word for, there's another terminology of it, but I know this lady, my colleague, and she the way she is traumatized, she's so traumatized, and she's telling me about her traumatization, a few days ago. And I regularly talk to people about their lives. So this lady is so traumatized about marrying a guy who got her all the way from Venezuela and brought her to Europe and to work, and at the end told this lady she's gonna be a prostitute, and she's gonna make her money, him money, you know. But I'm happy she get out of that, and that's blind trust. Blind trust, you can't trust people blindly. We take these things so easy. We take the things so easy, like it will never happen to me. I can never, be the victim in my life. I can never, you know, you always are so secure until you let your guard down. until you let your guard down. And once you let your guard down, and ignore all the red flags, ignore all what you have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention. Have people earned your trust? He's an uncle, you know, he's an uncle, he's a friend, he's a neighbor, the brother of, the sister of, you know, the friend of. But what do those people do to earn your trust? What do those people do to earn your loyalty, to earn your respect before you let them in your house? By the way, do you know they say, it's not a say, but it's true. Once you let somebody in your house, do you know how difficult it is to get them out? Once you let the devil in your house, it's very difficult to let the devil out of your house. Keep that in mind, you know? Believing someone, believing someone, that's the most craziest and very difficult thing that people blindly do. They believe everything on TV. They believe everybody. They believe anyone, you know? And when things go left, they panic. But it's you who did the wrong thing. It's you who let the people inside your house. It's you who let the devil inside your house. It's you who did the wrong thing at the wrong time. Sometimes it's not, we tend to say, oh God, why did you do this to me? But sometimes it's your own actions that get you there. It's your own actions that bring you in that position you're not supposed to be in. And most of the time, women, you are in charge of the children. If you have a bad mother, you're going to have a bad life. I'm sorry if I say that. If you have a bad mother, you're going to have a bad life. If you have a mother who doesn't protect you, if you have a mother who doesn't keep away strangers from you, these days, the internet is everywhere. When I was growing up, the internet wasn't everywhere. These days, the internet is everywhere. Kids get on internet and talk about everything: drugs, sex, alcohol, parties, everything. And I'm not even talking about the dark web. So for kids, these kids need more protection these days. You gotta watch what they're watching. You gotta watch who they hang out with. You gotta watch what they're doing. You gotta watch where they're going. Blind trust happens to everybody. Blind trust is on every age, every level, every position. You can't trust the police these days. You can't trust your lawyer. You can't trust anybody blindly. Because the more you trust people blindly, is just a call for trouble. People have to prove themselves. People have to start proving themselves to you before you start trusting them blindly. Like, I have like the best rapper in my life. The best rapper who like I grew up with, followed and liked the music, bought all the CDs. DMX. DMX trusted his friend blindly. He trusted his friend blindly, and what did his friend do? His friend laced a joint with cocaine in it, you know? And once he smoked that crack, he was gone. That's what happens to people. That's what happens to people. If you trust people blindly, that is what will happen to you. Imagine his best friend. He grew up with this man and he looked up to this man. They were doing music together, doing things together. And he blindly trusted this man. And whatever he was smoking, he was smoking. So he ended up smoking crack. He ended up smoking a laced joint with crack in it. And that destroyed his life. How do you start forgiving somebody like that? Just that story. How do you start forgiving somebody like that? There are a lot of stories in this world, not only about drugs, but generally life. Girls who have been raped by their fathers, boys who have been raped by their mothers. I mean, I don't know if I have to filter this on YouTube, but it's just true. I'll get a flag somewhere. What if? But anyway, I need to get this message out to people. I need people to understand that blind trust is something you just don't give anybody. You don't just show everybody, you know? You don't let them cross your lines, your boundaries, with no any accountability, with no anything to show for it, letting people cross that line. You have to put boundaries in your life. Whatever whatever you do in life will bring you to a either good or bad position, depending on who you trust. Depending on who you trust. We don't take ourselves to positions that we need, that we want to be in, because we have to work together. Life is all about working together. It doesn't matter your color, it doesn't matter where you are. If we can't work together, we won't get anywhere. Elon Musk is not doing everything by himself. You know, all these rich people didn't do anything by themselves. I'm not doing anything by myself. I have to trust. I have to be able to be trusting somebody to do some things for me, for me to get somewhere. You know, my schedules, my work, my hobbies. So I have to be able to place boundaries to get time to do this, what I'm doing right now. You know, most of all, when I was young, my mother always told me to be aware of my surroundings. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of your body. Be aware of your emotions. Be aware of yourself. It's not only about placing boundaries. It's not only about placing boundaries. It's also being aware of yourself. You know, be aware of yourself, where you are. You know, I think this world is ruled by a lot of bad decisions and bad people. So you have to be very, 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 very careful who you keep around you, who you follow after, because sometimes our our own people we look up to are the ones who let us down. You know, you have to be a good role model. You have to follow a good role model in order to get a better life and better position where you want to be. You know, are you having problems in your life? Are you having any problems with decision making? Are you having any problems with spirituality, believing in God? Or are you having any problems with yourself? Addiction, cigarettes, weed, alcohol? Just hit me up and we can talk about it. We can talk about it. Just send me a message and we can talk about it. I do one-on-ones, um, one-on-one consultations, consultations, consultations. I do one-on-one consultations, so for free, you know. And if you ever need a friend to talk to about a situation you're going through, just let me know. Just hit me up and we'll talk about it. It doesn't have to be filmed. We'll find a way. There's YouTube, there's, I don't mean YouTube, I mean there's WhatsApp. We can also just call on Instagram. It's also possible. So just hit me up because I love to help people. Mostly people who are stuck, because most people are stuck, and the thing is, people are stuck emotionally. It's not really about the alcohol, it's not really about the drugs, it's not really about the porn and all those things that are your vices. It's about that emotional attachment to it. that you have to break. I've been a smoker. I smoked since I was 12, and I've quit like 6 years. You know, I've smoked weed, I've smoked everything, and I quit 6 years, 6 years clean. You know, and I always feel like something is calling me. Smoke that cigarette, smoke that weed when you're with your, that's why I cut off a lot of friends. Boundaries, accountability, red flags, you know. I'm aware of all those things, and I try to implement those things in my life today. Blind trust, I don't trust nobody blindly. I don't trust nobody. Nobody. The cops could knock on my door right now and tell me, we want could we come in, we need to talk to you about something. I'm going to ask them about what, how, where, what, why. You know, I don't trust nobody blindly. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know, life is a mystery and life is good. I'm blessed. We're blessed with this life. You know, if you don't think you're blessed with your life, try not breathing. There are small, there are small things in life, even though it's difficult. Life is difficult for everybody. Everybody's having a hard time in life, not only you. That's why if you are having a hard time in your life, you know, because we all have to wake up in the morning, we have things we have to do, we have culture, we have family, we have, accountabilities, we have things we have to do. And if you don't set boundaries in your life, if you don't protect yourself in your life, you're going to have extra problems in your life. You have a family to take care of, but you also have a friend who's getting you in trouble, you have a neighbor who's interrupting your family life. You know, you can't trust nobody blindly. And I don't trust anybody blindly. I do my best. I do my best to keep extra trouble out of my life. And that's by setting boundaries. Setting boundaries not only to yourself, not only to your addictions and vices, but setting boundaries for your families, setting boundaries for your neighbors, setting boundaries for your household, your animals, your everything, your wife, your setting boundaries for everything around you, your internet, your all everything you're doing. Set your boundaries. Draw those lines, read those red flags, stay aware of yourself and your actions, and you will be great. We will be great. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to me. I hope this catches somebody somewhere. I hope this is. I hope I'm talking to somebody because somebody really needs this. Anyway, thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow. Peace, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless you.